Kingdoms of Amalur is a very contentious game to a lot of people. Not so much because the gameplay wasn't fun. I really enjoyed it. I actually picked it up when it launched way back when in 2012. It was more so the development of the game. Kurt Schilling started a studio in Rhode Island called 38 Studios, and he got this huge grant from the state of Rhode Island for $75 million to develop the game. And when it launched, it underperformed. I guess he had also been working on a follow-up MMO to the game, only dubbed Project Copernicus. Either way, when the sales weren't what Rhode Island deemed them to be, Kurt Schilling abruptly filed for bankruptcy and the studio shut down. The IP seemed to be lost, even though THQ Nordic picked it up and did nothing with it until yesterday, June 3rd, 2020, when we were told that Kingdoms of Amalur would be getting a remastered known as the Kingdom of Amalur Re-Reckoning. And as such, among other things, they would be including a collector's edition. Now, what makes this game so special to me is because it had such an all-star cast behind it. You had R.A. Salvatore, who put together the entire lore and story of this universe, and a huge collaboration with Todd McFarlane from McFarlane Toys and Spawn, amongst other things, who did all of the art direction in this game, which I thought was a very pretty game for the time, all things considered. So if you didn't get the chance to play it, don't feel bad. It's coming out again, and it didn't sell very well. I'm wondering now that it's under the THQ Nordic umbrella, it's going to probably get a little bit more advertising. THQ Nordic's collector editions, though, are hit and miss, and we know this. So what is this collector's edition going to get you? Well, I have a picture here to show you guys. It's going to run you about $110 US. It's going to be available on the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, and also on PC. And it's going to come with 5 artworks. Now, these look to be these kind of standard cards that we've seen before. It definitely, it's hard to tell because unfortunately the image that they provided isn't very good. I'm hoping we get a more official video from them later, deep diving the contents a little bit more. The reason I say that is it's kind of hard to tell, but it appears that it's got the name of the game across the top. So this looks more like a promotional material rather than something like this, which is official artwork of the game, showing off the new graphics and the new, kind of the texture, kind of what you could expect to see if you played the game. These would be, I think, although they're not exactly the most iconic images, I think these would really be better suited for that kind of collector piece, where these are an iconic pose of a picture, of a character rather, or an iconic scene in the game, maybe a major weapon or something. Those are more akin to what I would expect to see in a nice collector edition if they're printed card stock. These are the kind of themes you're going to hang and frame on your wall. For example, when I got the Shadow of the Colossus Collector Edition, it came with a bunch of little postcards, which I framed and hung up next to my Gaius statue. It kind of completes the set. But when you look at this, it's hard to say, especially if the advertisement or the name is across the top. And I know I beat that up a lot on these statues and on these pieces, but the truth is, real collectors don't necessarily want to see that. They want the piece to kind of stand on its own. So you're going to get these 5 artworks. You're also going to get an Amalur keychain, which looks just to be the A, the kind of iconic logo with A with all the swirls through it. That was something that was really noticeable to me in the first logo, in the first rendition of the game, I should say. So you're going to get a keychain. You're also going to get a actual soundtrack. I assume this is going to contain most major themes and stuff from the game. I've got to admit, it's been a long time since I played Kingdoms of Amalur. I don't necessarily remember any songs that really stood out to me. Nothing that was iconic like some of these other soundtracks that I think have really kind of made their way into more popular mainstream. But I always appreciate when a collector's edition includes a soundtrack, especially when it is not a digital one. So this is actually something you're going to be able to hold and to put into a CD player, assuming you still have one, because I do, in my truck, and I'll be able to listen to it there and enjoy it. You're obviously going to get a copy of the game. As far as I can tell, There is no different variants of the game in terms of like, there's no standard edition versus collector's. Obviously, this is the collector's edition, like an Ubisoft Gold edition or something like that. I don't really see anything here. I assume, and it does say here, that all copies of the game will come with everything. So there's no need in terms of, buying the base game or buying the silver edition or the gold edition or any of that stuff. You're going to be getting all of the DLC with, which is cool. And lastly, and most importantly, you're going to be getting this statue. Now, I have to say again, a lot of people probably haven't played Kingdoms of Amalur. This character might not mean a whole lot to you. And the fact that it sits at a pretty respectable size for a statue, a little over 8 inches tall, and almost as wide. I think that has a lot to do with the cape kind of billowing out. I think really gives it would probably give it a nice heft to it. A lot of these collector edition statues that I've seen do keep under that foot tall mark, which is great because a lot of us use the IKEA cube, which is a 12 by 12 by 12 cube where you kind of put all your stuff in. A lot of people have that. That's pretty standard size. The problem is a lot of these statues I find are really tall and thin. You're not really getting a lot of depth, and I'm appreciative that they have spent so much time billowing out the cape, having her arms extend out in each side. I really do like that. The question is it something you're going to notice as memorable or remember? Well, for me, yes. I think more so it speaks to the art style of the game. And the whole game, and I'll go back through these pictures again, had a very unique art style to it in terms of how the weapons were curved, in terms of kind of how the armor laid on each character. And it was really, I don't want to say iconic, and I'm not belittling what Todd McFarlane did with this game, but it definitely had its own style, not one that you would remember, in 50 years from now or anything, but it was very unique. And I think the collector edition really does capture that. I remember playing a character with 2 daggers that looked almost identical to this. I remember having another character that was heavily armored with the giant weapon, and even kind of here on the box art, you can see the character with the 2, giant sword and a giant hammer. One of the cool things about this game was the ability to change anything about your character and respec very, very quickly. So I like that they have captured that art style here, and I'm a little frustrated by the quality of the photo, and I wish it was a little bigger and a little more detailed so we could look at it better. But I'll tell you that I like it. I like that there's no markings on the front of the statue saying, hey, this is a remake of a game, because it doesn't really roll off the tongue, and the logo honestly doesn't look that cool. The fact that it's Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning was cool, but the Re-Reckoning, I get it. Okay, it's a play on words. But that would just be too much to take away from the statue. Now, the base itself isn't all that exciting. It's just kind of a standard rock-looking base, maybe part of a castle wall or just a rock on the ground. But I like that it kind of lifts up the character a little bit, and it does match, thematically at least, what you'll experience when you play the game. I like the attention to detail on the 2 daggers. I really like the floating cape, and I also I talked about the depth. I like that the cape wraps around in front of the front leg, and then it also billows out behind the back. These are little attention to detail things that I think a lot of people probably would just naturally overlook and just say, oh, okay, well, it's just a statue. What's the big deal? But it is this attention to depth that is really going to make it pop on a shelf. When you think of some of the other collector editions that I've looked at before, like the Uncharted Libertalia edition or the Overwatch, the Soldier 76 edition. Very, very cool statues. I love Nathan Drake. I love Soldier 76. However, you look at them and they're just tall and thin and standing there. There's not really a lot of depth to them. Here you have your arms, you have the character's arms in front and behind, the cloak billowing out front and back, a wide stance on a statue that has some depth to it. And I think they did a really good job with it. The best part about this is THQ Nordic maybe has been watching my videos, I don't know, and decided that price isn't listed here, but I can tell you it's going to run for $110 US. which is a far cry, ridiculous cheaper amount than their normal $200 collector editions, which have been really plaguing, I think, the whole collector edition thing for a long time, because that is just way too expensive. So if you're interested, I'll post a link to this Amazon posting in the description box below. When the game goes live, keep an eye out for it. Will this sell out? Probably not, based on everything else that I know of Kingdoms of Amalur. But as I say, if you're interested, buy it now. You could always cancel later. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.